Today is the day you conquer anxiety, fear, worry, and overthinking. You were made for so much more this 2024, but anxiety literally has you in a box. Today is the day you reclaim your crown and you walk into freedom. You've probably tried the deep breathing, the yoga, the distraction techniques. I get that they can help, but they do not cure. I am not going to give you guys another band-aid solution. I am going to teach you that anxiety is not an attack on the body, it is an attack on the mind. So the only way you are going to overcome anxiety is if you change your mind. You need to change your mind about how you see those threats. You need to take your current beliefs and trade them for new ones because those previous beliefs you had have been keeping you caged. I'm going to share with you guys 5 powerful mindset shifts that have sent anxiety packing in my life. These help for me, and I hope that it will do the same thing for you. Tip number 1, if you do not want anxiety, you need to stop claiming it. You need to stop saying things like, I'm a worrier, I'm an anxious person, I'm an overthinker, my anxiety, I have anxiety. Like, stop saying that right now. You are not anxiety, you are a person struggling with anxiety. The reason why I say this is because if you do not want something on you, why attach it to your identity? This is something I did for so long, and this was one of the things that kept me stuck. Your identity, your I am, is one of the most powerful things you possess. You are supposed to dress it with power and not with defeat. Anxiety is defeat. You want it off of you, so you need to stop claiming it. If you use anxiety to define who you are, it will only continue to perpetuate in your life. God never made you to be an anxious person. God has not given us a spirit of anxiety. God's given us a spirit of power and of a sound mind and of love. Why do we use anxiety to define ourselves? The attack of anxiety on our mind is sent straight from the devil. The devil aims to kill, steal, and destroy. And what does anxiety do in your life? It paralyzes you. It keeps you from reaching your fullest potential. It keeps you from being the king or queen you're meant to be. That is not something you want to come into agreement with. Your tongue is so powerful. Your tongue can either speak life and treasures onto you, or it can speak death and destruction onto you. Use your tongue to dress yourself with power. Stop wearing anxiety like it's a jacket. Take anxiety, put it into submission. Don't let anxiety put you into submission any longer. So like I said, instead of I have anxiety or my anxiety, try saying things like, I'm a person struggling with anxiety. I'm a person battling with anxiety. You reclaim so much power when you do that, because you are confessing that anxiety is something that you're experiencing, but not something that defines you. And it's something that you're experiencing, but something that will depart from you. The first step to overcoming anxiety is unlocking the power of your words. You need to start believing and confessing that you are not anxiety, so the devil knows that you are not the one to play with. And the more you come into agreement with the truth about who you are, the more ammunition you have to fight those attacks, those anxious attacks, when they come. Tip number 2, get to know God and resize your threat. Hear me out. I'm only going to tell you things that worked for me. And this was the most effective mindset shift, okay? Why do we experience anxiety? We experience anxiety because there is a threat in the way. A threat sometimes very alarming that won't really do much to us that we can actually overcome, but sometimes threats are very alarming and very big and absolutely out of our control. And it's the out of controlness that makes us to shake, that makes our palms sweaty, that makes our heart beat. Sometimes threats are out of our control. In those times, what are you going to do? And this is exactly what I was facing in 2022. Little quick testimony, very brief. I was always the Christian that was Christian because my family was Christian. I believed in God because my family did, but did I really believe in God? No. That's the very reason why I was experiencing crippling anxiety in 2022 when my life completely shifted. A lot of life changes happened so quickly that I won't really get into that caused me to lose touch of a lot of control in my life. And it's moments like that you realize, wow, this life thing that we go through, it's always going to be up and downs. That's why I'm not here to give you a band-aid solution, because I know threats can be bigger than us. The anxiety I was experiencing got so bad to the point that I started experiencing really bad social anxiety, really, really bad insomnia. I could not sleep at night. I was having serious issues with my blood pressure because my heart was always racing. My mind was always flooding with 1,000 thoughts per second. That's when I came to my doctor, mid 2023, and I told him, I'm like, doctor, I'm really struggling with anxiety. And he said, you know what, Angel, I think it's time I put you on pills. Pills are really gonna help you. But me, being a nurse, I knew that it wasn't gonna cure me. And I've always been someone who likes to look for cures to things, okay? So I was really emotional. I was really down about the fact that I might just start having to take pills in order to gain some kind of peace of mind and control in my life. And like I said before, I wasn't really a strong believer. I was a very practical, realistic person. I didn't really know why I had to believe in something I really couldn't see. But I was at one of my lowest points, and I remember calling out to God and saying, God, I don't really believe in you much, but if you're there, I need you desperately. I need you desperately, and I'm ready to surrender my life to you because I know that me being in control of my own life wasn't going to cut it. Fast forward to a couple days, just scrolling on TikTok, and I just started, like, Christian TikTok just started taking over. I'm like, out of nowhere, okay, Christian TikTok. And then I just kept watching, scrolling, watching more videos, resonating with them more. I'm like, okay, this feels really therapeutic. And then I just thought to myself, I'm like, wow, I claim I'm a Christian, but I've never actually touched the Bible once. I don't even know who this God is who I'm supposed to be believing in. So that's when I got into this Bible challenge. I saw it pop on my TikTok again for the month of September. And it said a verse a day, follow a verse a day. And I remember just thinking, man, this might be God answering my prayers, because it was very convenient that a Bible challenge came right when I thought to myself I wasn't reading the Bible enough. So that happened, and by the end of September, I was a saved woman. Jesus Christ saved my life from crippling anxiety to peace like a river. And those things that were threatening to me were still persisting in my life at that time. I was still really going through them, but I had this weird sense of peace that God was going to handle it. And he did. He did. It's been almost a year, and I've never experienced this much peace in my life. The truth of the matter, guys, is that God is real, and he is so big, and he made each and every one of us and wants to save us so bad. When you open the Bible and you see that it says, do not fear 365 times in the Bible, it must mean that a God this big wants us to be at peace because he's handling all things. We just don't believe it yet. That's why we keep shaking. We just don't know him yet. That's why we keep panicking. If God is this small to you, your troubles, your problems, your threats will always be this big to you. If God is this big to you, your troubles, your worries, your threats will look this small to you. When God is this small to you, rely on your own limited power so much. That's why you fear. But when God is this big to you and you get to know him and you find a relationship with him and you find out just how big he is, and you find out that his power can't be exhausted, and you find out that his power is limitless, your threat shrinks. Everything is subject to the power of God, even the threat you're facing. God laid the foundations of the earth. He created all 200 trillion billion stars with his fingertips. He created all 8 billion of us and knows us more than we know ourselves. Can you imagine a God this big cares this much about each and every one of our problems. We just don't believe it yet. Is it your money problems that's bigger than God? Is it your divorce problems or your house problems or your job problems that's bigger than God? Like, I promise you, every single problem you're facing, and I am not being ignorant, I promise. But because I know how big God is, I promise you every single problem you're facing is like a grain of sand to him. I can't stress this to you enough. And when you meet God for yourself, then and only then will you know. Your worrying moves nothing. It does absolutely nothing for you. It just expends your precious energy. But if you focus that energy on God and trusting in him and believing him and forming a relationship with him, that moves mountains. Worrying moves nothing. Faith in God moves mountains. If you don't know how to get to know God, like I said in the testimony, start in the Gospels, either Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. This is the way to get to know God. When you get to know who he is, you know what you can expect from him. And those things will start manifesting in your life, okay? I'm just gonna drop one Bible verse. This is the most important thing to obtaining that supernatural peace, even through the storms. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all things will be added onto you. Most important Bible verse. God first, and let him handle the rest. God first, and he handles business while you sit pretty, okay? Faith and fear hate each other. They hate each other. When faith is present, fear has nowhere to sit. When fear is present, faith has nowhere to sit. Have more faith. Start believing that he will do it, and he will do it. Tip number 3. Fears are meant to be faced in order to fly. This is for people who are experiencing more of fear-based anxiety, okay? So let's unpack fears. Fear basically comes when we experience a threat. Fear is protecting us against a threat that can either kill us, or fear is protecting us against a threat that can't kill us. And we're gonna focus on those threats, the threats in your life that are threatening but can't kill you. That are threatening, but when you face them, unlock increase, growth, success, all the things that you need to be that girl or be that guy. But you refuse to go to that place because you're currently blinded by a false sense of comfort. If this fear that you face is meant to prune you and meant to make you get better, you need to stop aborting the mission. Fears are meant to be faced in order to fly. And it's not just fears are meant to be faced, fears can be faced. You've just programmed your mind to believe that you can't face them. But we are going to reprogram that brain today, okay? 3 things about fear I wanna unpack. I wanna unpack your comfort zone, which is the place you're in right now, stopping you from facing your fear. The second place is your fear or your threats. The thing that is so threatening that you do not wanna approach. And number 3 is your promised land. The place that you should be in to experience growth and increase in favor, but you are withholding from yourself. So let's unpack the first place, which is your comfort zone. We are here because we're convinced this place is more approachable than approaching our threat. But one thing about the comfort zone that you need to understand is that the comfort zone is a place of paralysis. It's a place where you are not moving. You've freely given up your right to move because your threat owns you. Your threat owns you because it stopped you from progressing. It owns you because it's withholding your promised land, which is your place of increase, your place of growth. Your comfort zone has all those things captive. You've given that threat your rights to victory. So how comforting is that in reality? Your comfort zone is sinking sand because it's withholding your promised land. Just hold on to that because the comfort zone ain't really the comfort zone. Now, let's face your threat. Why is this place so threatening? What is it about your threat that is so unapproachable? I'm here to remind you that if something cannot kill you, it can only make you stronger. That means your threat is there for your benefit. It's like a muscle. In order to grow, it needs to lift uncomfortable weights. And the only way that weight gets comfortable is when you lift it. If you never lift the weight, it will always be uncomfortable. Uncomfortable only becomes comfortable when you start. And whatever it is you're scared of, if it does happen, why is that a loss? Why is that a bad thing? What is that going to do to you? Like, anytime you make an effort towards something, you are winning, because you either have a blessing or you have a lesson. And a lesson is going to make you smarter in the future. You should fear paralysis and not moving more than you fear that threat. That threat can't kill you, but paralysis can. If you are not growing, you are dying. Like, whatever it is that you're scared of right now, that you're scared of doing, that you think you absolutely can't, you can. I promise you, you can. Fear paralysis, fear not moving, fear not putting in effort because you're scared of what's on the other side. Don't let anything that can't kill you stop you from moving and stop you from getting to that promised land. Let me tell you how important movement is. Movement creates experience. Experience gives you something to reflect on. When you reflect on experience, you develop refined movement. And what's another word for refined movement? Growth. Growth, increase, success, promised land. Do not keep yourself from achieving all these things. And that's the last place to unpack, the promised land. Sometimes you stay in that comfort zone so much because that fear is so threatening that you forget to think about that promised land, all the things you are to gain and reap once you do that uncomfortable thing that will soon eventually become comfortable. Like, on the other side of being socially awkward and your fear of talking to people and social anxiety, on the other side of that fear and that threat is a more confident social person. You are not social anxiety. You were meant to commune with people. There's 8 billion people in the world. Of course, you can't stay alone in isolation. I struggle with social anxiety so badly, but the more you practice, the more you get better. You just have to get used to picking up that uncomfortable weight until it becomes comfortable. Okay? Confront the uncomfortable threats in your life right now and remind that threat that it will no longer hold your promised land captive. Tip number 4, before you take off, fuel your plane with power. So, we talked about taking off. Fears are meant to be faced in order to fly. Before that plane takes off, you need to fuel your plane with power, okay? This is more of a preventative tip because a lot of the times when we finally get that courage to face our fear, doubts, negative thoughts, anxiety starts coming in the way to tell us, no, you can't. You can, okay? We are going to fuel ourselves and arm ourselves with power, with fuel, okay? The perfect way I love to arm myself with power and fuel my plane before I take off is 1, through journaling, and 2, through prayer. Journaling is a dump. Dump out all the emotions, everything you're facing. Write it all down on paper. After you do that, examine what those emotions are, what those doubts are. What is that doubt actually saying about you? Are these things true? Are these things thoughts that are probably coming from the enemy? Why are these thoughts here? And are these thoughts actually things that have proven itself true? You need to rebuttal all these thoughts and all these lies with the truth about who you are in God. That's why it's so important to read the word and get to know who God says you are, because whoever God says you are is who you are. So you need to, after writing out all these lies and all these emotions you feel, start writing out who you are in confidence so that you remind yourself you are not all these doubts and you are not all these lies. After you do that, you go to God. It's like a round 2. You dump all your fears and your problems on God, and guess what God's going to do? He's going to equip you with everything you need, telling him all the things you're facing. But then you ask God for courage. You ask him for courage. You ask him for strength. You ask him for bravery to face your fears, because he gives the utmost power. He gives the utmost strength. After you do this, you take a deep breath and you remember something very important, that you are walking on the shoulders of a giant. Wherever you go next, you are walking on the shoulders of a giant. The enemy loves to make us feel like we are alone, because when we do that, we feel small, we feel incapable, and we don't end up going. But go. because you are walking on the shoulders of a giant. God is with you everywhere you go. I mean, not to rob a bank. I hope we're not going to rob a bank, but you know, if it's a place in which God is ordained, it's a good place, something that you need to do, God is with you everywhere you go. Right before Joshua in the Bible, he was on his way to the promised land, but there were some obstacles up ahead. God reminded Joshua and he said, Joshua, do not fear. I am with you everywhere you go. That's what got Joshua going. He gathered his team and he got them going, saying, do you know what? Wherever we go, I know that God is going to be with me, fighting my battles for me, fighting the attacks on my mind, so that I will no longer be anxious, but walk in power and in strength and with a sound mind, okay? Feel you're playing with power. Don't forget that very important step. We only have one job, and this is what Jesus said in the Bible. It was somewhere in Luke chapter 8, and it's so important. Like anytime I get fearful and say I can't, I remember I can, because God says this one thing. He says, do not fear, just believe and be made well. Okay, same for you. Do not fear, just believe. You're walking on the shoulders of a giant, and be made well. Whatever happens is a W, okay? A blessing or a lesson is the only thing that's going to come out from this, whatever you're going to do. And those two things are synonymous. They're both W's. They're both wins. They're both something for you to gain, okay? Last point, tip number 5, when you take off, focus only on flying. Don't focus on the possibility of turbulence. Don't focus on, will I get to my destination? Don't focus on what will happen when I get to my destination. Only focus on flying. This is for people who are struggling with fear, overthinking, worry. Just focus on flying. So what does that mean? That means to be hyper focused and fixate on being present, being productive, and being positive. Present, productive, and positive. That's what I want you to remember when you think about just flying. Because the devil likes to taunt us with an uncertain future and uncertainty, because he knows that we can't see the future. That's why he loves to taunt us with the thoughts of uncertainty. But do you know who can't see the future? And do you know who's already in the future? God is. God has already paved the way, created the provisions for that future that you're worrying about. So leave it to him. And God is saying, sweetheart, I need you to stay right here in the future where I put you, because I have an assignment here for you in the future. So stay right here, be present, positive, and productive, and leave the future for God, because he's already taking care of that, okay? The more you just stay focused and present in this very moment, you won't even realize when time has gone by and you're already in that place that you are worrying about. Be present, positive, and productive. Be present. Worry about what's going on around you right now. Worry about how you can be better. Worry about how you can make someone else better and impact somebody else's life, okay? Don't worry about what ifs. Productive, like I said, what can I do to the best of my ability to serve other people today? Positive. How can I give thanks for what God has already given me today? Gratitude directly repels anxiety, because the same place in your brain that constructs anxiety is the same place in your brain that constructs gratitude. So when one is present, the other one can't be. So focus more on gratitude, thanking God for the breath in your lungs, the beating of your heart, and the opportunities he's placed in your life right now. Make the most out of it. If you're scared of a presentation or something, focus on, I was appointed for this presentation for a reason. How can I write this presentation and prepare for it to the best of my ability right now? Don't worry about when you get up on stage. Worry about how I can be my best right now. It doesn't make sense to worry about the final grade when you haven't even finished the assignment. Like, let that sink in, okay? Focus on doing the assignments asked of you right now to the best of your ability, and stop mind reading into what ifs and what can happen in the future, because the future isn't here. The future isn't for you to deal with. God has put you here right now. So deal with this. The same God who's making you smile and making you content in this very moment is the same God who has plans to do that in the future that you're worrying about, okay? So block out all that noise, worry only about flying, and you'll be made well. And that concludes our video for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helps. I really want you guys to focus on practicing these 5 truths, guys. The only way these truths are going to start becoming truths is if you start practicing them. You need to trade your old beliefs and those old lies you were telling yourself with truths and practice living them out each and every day. And sooner or later, they will become your reality. Sooner or later, anxiety will be afraid of even touching you. Take a screenshot of this, guys. This basically is a reminder of all the 5 mindset shifts that I want you guys to adapt. Put this as your lock screen or something. Remind yourself of these truths, because these are the truths that are going to set the anxious attacks free. Anxiety will no longer be your portion anymore in 2024. You are made for so much more, okay, guys? And it's time that you start walking in that truth. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe. It's my first video. It's really gonna help so more people can be set free and not have to deal with the burden of anxiety, fear, overthinking, worry anymore, okay? But until next time, God bless you all. Go in peace. Be made well, guys.